Hockey's biggest stars have showed out this postseason. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Sergei Bobrovsky, they've been remarkable. And before their teams got eliminated, studs like Mika Zibanejad and Cale Makar were incredible too. And it's awesome to see the game's biggest talents deliver when the lights shine the brightest. But it's maybe even more fun to see the unheralded players that step up on the big stage. The role players and randos who unexpectedly carve out legacies for themselves with epic, out-of-nowhere postseason runs. With that said, here are the top 5 most unlikely heroes in NHL playoff history.
Play clock at 5, scored 4 goals, 3, a 2-home running, and 1.
To kick this list off, we're going way back to the original 6 days. Coming in at number 5, we've got Marcel Bonin. If that name doesn't ring a bell, that's because he was one of the supporting characters on the Montreal Canadiens dynasty of the late 1950s that won 5 straight Stanley Cup championships. The one that was carried by Hall of Famers like Maurice Richard and Jean Beliveau. Bonin was actually with Montreal for 3 of those championships, but he was seldom in the spotlight, there or elsewhere. In fact, throughout his 9-year NHL career, he never scored more than 17 goals in a season. However, when both Richard and Beliveau got injured in the '59 playoffs, Bonin went video game mode. In their absence, Bonin exploded for 7 goals and 10 points in Montreal's semifinals victory over Chicago, then added 5 more points, including 2 game-winning goals, in the Canadiens' Stanley Cup Finals win over Toronto. All told, he led all skaters that postseason with 10 goals, while his 15 points trailed only teammate Dickie Moore. 10 goals and 15 points in 11 games. This from a guy whose name doesn't even get mentioned when people discuss that epic Canadiens dynasty. But had the Conn Smythe Award existed in '59, Bonin almost certainly would have won it. Next up, coming in at number 4, we've got Fernando Pisani. His 7-year stint with Edmonton would likely be completely forgotten had he not essentially turned into Wayne Gretzky for the Oilers' epic Stanley Cup Finals run almost 2 decades back. Pisani, who tallied just 87 goals in 462 career regular season games and never scored more than 18 in a single season, went absolutely bonkers in the '06 playoffs, propelling the 8th-seeded Oilers all the way to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. In 24 games that postseason, Pisani scored 14 goals, tops among all skaters. More than Rod Brind'Amour, more than Eric Stahl and Patrick Marleau and Mark Recchi. 5 of those goals, by the way, came in the finals against Carolina, and 5 of them were game winners, including a shorthanded double OT winner in Game 5 against the Canes. To this day, less than 25 players in NHL history have scored more goals in a single postseason than Pisani, who, believe it or not, scored exactly 14 goals in 77 games the following season. Wow. And speaking of those '06 playoffs, let's move to number 3 on our list, Cam Ward. The rookie netminder who had all of 28 NHL games under his belt when he carried the Hurricanes to a Stanley Cup victory over Edmonton. Yeah, he had pedigree as a first-round draft pick, and yes, that Hurricanes team was a wagon that made life easier on him, but still, you don't expect a rookie goalie to step up like Ward did, especially after he posted an uninspiring and ultimately career-worst save percentage over his 28 regular season games that season. But Ward was exceptional after taking over for Martin Gerber in Game 2 of the first round. Over his first 7 starts that postseason, Ward went 7-0 with a .951 save percentage. And although he wasn't quite as unbeatable as the Canes moved deeper into the postseason, he was terrific when it mattered most. He allowed just 2 goals on 24 shots in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, then stopped 22 of 23 shots in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals against Edmonton. In doing so, he became the first rookie goalie since Patrick Waugh 20 years earlier to win the Stanley Cup. And yeah, as you might expect, he took home the Conn Smythe Award. Storybook stuff. Next up, at number 2, we have Ville Leino, who entered the 2010 postseason as a nobody and left them as a bona fide Philadelphia legend. Coming into the 2010 playoffs, the Finnish winger had racked up just 20 points in 68 career regular season games. And by the time he played his last NHL game in 2014, at the age of 30, he'd recorded just 1 season with double-digit goals and 1 season with more than 25 points. However, at the most opportune moment imaginable in 2010, Leino turned into a superstar, helping the 7th-seeded Flyers into the Stanley Cup Finals. After finally cracking the Flyers lineup in Game 5 of the first round, Leino went off, scoring 7 goals while adding 14 assists in 19 total playoff games. And he was at his best in the finals against Chicago. Over the course of that 6-game battle, Leino racked up 9 points, more than any player on the victorious Blackhawks, and led the Flyers in plus-minus. He made history in the process, too. Leino, who was still technically considered a rookie at the time, currently shares the NHL records for points and assists by a rookie in a single postseason. And those 21 points, by the way, would represent more than 17% of his lifetime regular season points total. Crazy. And that brings us to number 1. Really quickly though, before we do that, just wanted to say thank you all so much for your support. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure to smash that subscribe button. We're so close to 200,000 subs, we want you to help us get to that milestone. Okay, enough talk, the moment you've all been waiting for. At number 1 on our list, the most unlikely hero in NHL playoff history is J.S. Giguere. You remember. In 2003, the journeyman netminder single-handedly lugged the 7th-seeded Mighty Ducks within 1 win of a Stanley Cup title. I know Giguere went on to have a fine career and actually won a Stanley Cup championship a few years later, but at the time, the 25-year-old was already with his 3rd NHL team and actually had a losing record through 182 career games. Nobody could have anticipated just how otherworldly he'd be throughout the 2003 playoffs. In 21 games that postseason, Giguere posted a save percentage of .945, a goals against average of .162, and recorded 5 shutouts, including one in Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals against the New Jersey Devils. He also famously made 60 saves in a victorious 5-overtime epic against Dallas in the Western Conference semis. And in the Western Conference Finals against Minnesota, he allowed 1 goal. Total. In 4 games. Giguere was ultimately so outstanding that postseason that he took home the Conn Smythe Award even though his team lost in the finals. That had only happened 4 times prior, and it hasn't happened in the 2+ decades since. Legendary. And there you have it, those are our top 5 most unlikely heroes in NHL playoff history. Which ones did we get right? Which ones did we get wrong? Let us know in the comments. And be sure to check out our other NHL content. We just did deep dives into several defunct franchises for our Dude, Where's My Franchise series. I'll link those videos here, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button and follow us on all socials. That's it for me. I'm Jonah Birenbaum. We'll see you next time.